I'm Virgílio Viana. I'm a professor who currently is with the challenge of implementing a conservation and development agenda with 500 communities in the Amazon through Amazonas Sustainable Foundation, an institution which is 3.5 years old, and I currently am this CEO of this institution.
So, as you said, what's new? What's new with you? What are you up to right now? What are you working on today?
Well, today we're trying to create links between young people from urban areas with traditional populations from the Amazon. And this is part of the agenda that brought me to this music festival. And I'm a strong believer in music, the power of music for individuals. And in fact, we did a very interesting program. It's called the Music Festival of the Forest, which happened about 2 years ago in Amazonas and was fantastic. We had about 60 different people playing original songs, and then we had 14 finalists, and we had this final contest in Manaus, and it was fantastic. So music is very powerful because it can make people feel things rather than using the rational side of the brain. So, and I think that we are here to promote change, and music can be a catalyst of change.
Well, I guess in a way the jungle has music. When you're in there, the sounds, there's the music of the jungle is pretty hypnotic. So there's the nice rhythm that nature has as well. Yeah. I guess is important. Why do people? Do you think? Why do you think people have become afraid of nature? I think there's a certain disconnect now between people today and their relationship to nature, and indigenous communities and their relationship to nature, and even early species as humans, our relationship to nature has drastically changed to a point where I feel that people are afraid. Do you think that's a fair statement, that people are sort of wary of nature?
I think changing the vision that people have towards nature is essential, and fear is one part of this vision or this attitude towards forests that need to be changed. And in my opinion, this fear is a result of ignorance, of lack of knowledge. I give you an example. Just 10 days ago, I was in the middle of the forest in the Amazon in a place called Saracá. And I was in a trail. And when I looked behind, the guy who was sort of the leader of the trail was walking on barefoot, with just shorts and no shirt. And that was a very simple indicator of absence of fear. He was walking on barefoot. And usually when people come from distant places to the Amazon, people put long sleeves, hats, and repellents and boots and all kinds of things as if they were in the immediate threat. Because they don't know the forest. So it's a result of lack of knowledge, lack of understanding how nature works. And one of the challenges we have is to bring people closer to nature, because that not only can serve the role of dispelling these fears, but also help people become more in love with themselves, more in tune with their soul, with their spirit, which I think is part of the problem of humankind these days. There's a lot of unhappiness, and I think the most effective therapy is nature.
I guess you could almost say that there's because I look at it from an evolutionary standpoint, that our brains are more adapt to being scared of a spider or scared of going into the woods than we are of losing the trees. It's interesting to me, that psychology, that somebody won't camp in nature, but they will, they're scared of that more than maybe losing trees. And so for me, in the role that you've taken on now, in protecting the Amazon, protecting the trees, you come from the political sector. You were a politician and a professor, and you are a professor. Do you think there's a role for global governance within the saving of the Amazon and forests? I mean, do you think it's going to come from politicians? Is it going to come from business? Is it going to come from consumers and citizens? Is it all three? What is your view on the strategy for where will the traction really begin to saving our forests?
I think to save forests, we have to change the way forests are perceived by all sectors. And that is an agenda that should be part of governments and of business and of professionals and individuals and so on, everybody. And it requires change. Looking through business lenses, I would say that business should look at forests as opportunities to do business in a sustainable way. Looking through the lens of governments, we should see forests as an asset that can be converted into prestige. So we have to get politicians on board because of their interest. Looking from a consumer lens, we have to see how our consumer patterns impact negatively on forests. For example, buying timber that comes from unsustainably managed forests, or how our purchase power can help good use of forests, like buying Brazil nuts, or buying fish, or buying timber that it comes from managed and certified forests. So I think this is an agenda that has to be embraced by everybody, not only by governments or business or individuals or environmentalists. Environmentalists, on the other hand, need to look at the challenge of protecting forests with a very pragmatic lens. It's not only time to campaign by saying, oh, here we have a disaster going on. Yes, we have to say that, but in the following minute, we have to say, well, this is the solution. Not only to point to problems, but point to solutions. So I think it's an agenda for all.
I mean, you talk about Brazil nuts, you talk about sustainability of the forest. In my view, my experience with being in the world of sustainability, you know, there's probably a couple of words that stand out in some ways. Being sustainable is in some respects, being thoughtful. It's being a little slower, a little more considered of your actions before you take them. But do you think that that's a dichotomy to where we are today? I mean, Brazil is cited as a country that is, you know, alongside India, alongside China as an economic grower. You know, everyone else is in decline. You're moving fast towards, you know, a sort of a power in the economic model now. Do you think people will really want to take the sustainable path versus what we're seeing still, which is short-term gain? I mean, you know, I can either, you know, as you said, I can make more money from growing my Brazil nuts and my nuts and farming sustainably, but that takes time. And right now, politicians are only in for a couple of years. Businesses have quarterly, returns, and shareholders want pressure. So, do you think there really is the actual market or the environment, I should say, to actually foster those types of programs that you talk about, those solutions? Or do you think that people are going to just keep on, you know, the quick short-term profit?
The interesting news from Brazil is that not only Brazil is growing, but is growing in a very sound manner, relatively speaking, to most other countries. Most of our energy is from electricity, from hydro power, and we use relatively very little oil. Most of our gas is produced with sugar cane and it's alcohol, and there's a lot of change going on also in the Amazon frontier. One often makes the mistake of thinking that the environmental agenda is an agenda of the urban, educated people of São Paulo or London or New York, and forget that this is also an agenda of people in the middle of the forest, of people in urban areas in the Amazon. It's amazing to see the number of mayors in the Amazon, in places where you would never imagine people being environmentally conscious. And you see those mayors making political choices to go green. And the same happens at state level. We had several governors in the recent history of Brazil who adopted a green agenda. So there's a lot of very positive changes happening in Brazil, and one has to filter what the media presents, because the media tends to give more attention to the disasters, to the problems that are taking place, rather than to the promising and innovative solutions that are being implemented. And there are a lot of those in the Amazon. So I see Brazil not only as a powerhouse in terms of its environmental assets, but also a place where innovation is taking place with a green agenda at a very rapid pace.